I would like to welcome everyone to the first workshop of 2019 presented by PFCC Partners. Every year at the beginning of the year, we like to give an update to our community about everything that's going on with PFCC Partners. So thank you all for joining. We're really excited to share how 2018 went for our organization and what we're looking forward to in the new year. As a reminder, we are using Zoom, and I know a lot of you are calling in as well. We'll have some times at the end for, I guess I can turn, Libby got her camera on, I'll turn mine on. We'll have some time for questions at the end of today's session. But in the meantime, if you could mute your computer, if you're using your computer audio, you can do that by hovering over your screen and finding the little microphone that says mute, or keeping your line muted while we give our presentation today. And if you would like to share your video, and we'd love to see all your smiling faces like Libby and I are, you can do so by clicking Start Video. You should be able to see my screen, and if you have any questions or comments or kudos, anything that you would like to share in the next hour, please do so by using the chat box. You can find the chat again by hovering over your screen and finding that little chat bubble. As we get started, we would appreciate everyone taking a minute to introduce yourself. We would love to see who is joining us today, just so we can contribute to your experience here with us this afternoon. And with that, I would first like to introduce Stephen Hoy. He is the COO of PFCC Partners. Stephen, would you like to say hello?
Yes, thanks, Lindsay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 2019 kickoff. I'm excited to share what we've accomplished in the last year, and even more excited to share what we're looking forward to accomplishing this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. I know we also have Laura Jackson. She is the PFCC Partners Office Administrator with us.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining. And finally, I am going to pass it off to founder and CEO of PFCC Partners, Libby Hoy. She is going to tell you a little bit about our upcoming strategies for 2019 and all that we've accomplished in the last year. So Libby, please take it away. You are muted.
Got that. Manage the mute button. That is my #1 goal for 2019. Bad but true. So anyway, thank you everybody for taking an hour out of your day to join us and to listen in on our as we've said, what we've done in 2018, what's kept us busy, and where we're headed for 2019. I'm very excited to share our journey with you over the last year. Boy, we've learned a lot. And I have to start off with just a huge kudos and appreciation and thank you to Stephen and Lindsay and Laura for their tremendous teamwork all year. So thank you to you guys. All right, so to start with, we developed this, what would you call it, a graphic, I guess, to sort of depict our organization and support our explanation of it. And at the bottom there, you see in the gray box, all of the places that we still serve as patient family advisors ourselves. PFCC Partners, as you know, was started by myself, and from the perspective of patient family advisor, I've served in that role for about 25 years, and all of our staff members still serve in the role of patient family advisor, as well as providing the infrastructure to healthcare systems, healthcare organizations, research teams, measurement teams, to integrate the patient and family voice in a very robust and a high value and most importantly a sustainable way. So everything that we do really starts from the perspective of the advisor in that gray box. And then you see on the right, we really have two purposes in order to meet our mission of driving improvement across health systems and across the U.S. health system through partnership. We have two objectives to get us there. One is to raise the capacity of the advisors and the advisor community, and we do that by supporting the PFA network, which we'll talk about more in detail in just a little bit. And then the other side of it is really the matched side, right? It's the work that we do with, again, health systems, with quality improvement organizations, research teams, measurement teams, anybody who is working in the healthcare space who has an inclination, I won't even say a desire, because we will just stoke an inclination for partnership until it becomes a desire for partnership. And at that point, we really get to know organizations and where they are with patient-family engagement, what their organization is structured like, and how we can integrate patient-family engagement as an active strategy for improvement. And the top box, that teal box, are some of those organizations we've had the great fortune to partner with over the last year and several years for some of those. Next slide, please. So just a couple of pieces of review for us as we think back on 2018 and all the amazing opportunities that we've had to partner in our advisory efforts themselves. I'll share that with the National Quality Forum, we serve on a number of different of their action teams around opioids, around social determinants of health, behavioral health. We've had the good fortune to be a participant on the Leadership Consortium for National Quality Forum. So really getting to a point of helping organizations like the National Quality Forum to work out what the priority areas for their organization moving forward will be. National Quality Forum, I have to say, has been just such a tremendous partner to PFCC Partners and really consistently looks to the PFA network for experienced and well-prepared advisors to participate on their teams. PCORI's been a partner of mine since I started PFCC Partners, and which coincided actually with their start, and we still serve there on as ambassadors, as on research teams that are funded, review teams. And I rolled off the patient engagement advisory panel committee just this year in 2018. So again, another wonderful partner really dedicated to engaging the patient-family voice. The American Institute of Research, another tremendous partner leading patient-family engagement, particularly in the hospital improvement innovation networks, but also in some pilot projects that they have funded, and which Stephen serves as a sort of steering committee for that project as well. Stephen and Lindsay still serve at the local level in their own hospital and healthcare organizations at Sutter Medical in Sacramento and in Mammoth Hospital in Mammoth Lakes, California. Lindsay also serves in the Integrated Healthcare Association work, and again, bringing the perspective of the patient and the family to that work, which is interestingly more getting into the payer space. Cal Hospital Compare is an organization in California that seeks to publicize quality metrics for the hospitals in California for consumers' use to make decisions and to really, again, have another good, high-quality piece of information to inform their decisions about healthcare. I'm fortunate enough to serve on the board of directors for that organization as they continue and have really focused on activating consumers within their healthcare decision-making. And then in the center, CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, another organization that has not only spoken about their dedication to engaging patients and families meaningfully in their projects, but they're really acting that out. I had the amazing opportunity and honor of opening the 2018 CMS Quality Conference with my own patient story. And one of the things as we were preparing with that, I said to them, I'm uncomfortable just being a story on a stage if we're not going to back it up. And we really have had such a year of progress within CMS in terms of the patient family engagement work in all areas and in every program that they fund. So you'll hear a little bit more about our particular roles in their programs in just a few minutes. But I just can't stress enough the importance of having CMS really pushing patient family engagement again as that active strategy to improving the healthcare system. Next slide, please. Wonderful. So we've been busy. We are, I often say, a tiny but mighty team. And we have, again, had another big year in terms of that. We've run 2 Gateways Collaboratives. So that's our 6-month learning collaborative that where organizations are led through 5 learning sessions with action periods in between, where they build the infrastructure and launch patient family advisory programs. Sometimes they're councils, most often they're councils, but sometimes that's not the right route for our rural health systems or our quality improvement organizations. And so we demonstrate flexibility while providing consistent infrastructure, again, so that they're implementing something that's of high value to the organization and, most importantly, sustainable over time. We also recognized, Stephen did some great work with the metrics from the Hospital Innovation Improvement Network. That's one of the CMS programs that really drives improvement in the safety and quality of care in the American hospitals. We work in 2 of those HINs, as they're called, Hospital Innovation Improvement Network's HINs. And what we found, or what Stephen found and uncovered through looking at the data, was that many of the folks that weren't meeting the PFE metrics, of which one was to develop an advisory program, were our rural health communities and our rural health hospitals were really struggling to get that done. And so we kind of started to think with our amazing colleagues at Health Insight about how we could better reach them. And we realized that the 6-month learning collaborative, although very robust and very supported, did require resources that rural hospitals in general maybe just don't have. And so we adapted the Gateways Collaborative into a 1.5-day boot camp. And we'll share some more details about that a little bit later. But we successfully ran a boot camp with Health Insight for 12 hospitals in that HIN. And it was just a really exciting day to a 1.5 days, I should say, to move these teams really meaningfully. And now the boot camp was held in August. And now we see that those organizations have implemented advisory programs. So we're really excited about that format. The PFE think tanks are another set of activities that we've been utilizing to support the peer interaction and the peer learning around patient family engagement in 4 different communities. So the think tank format is really an open call for peer sharing and peer learning. And we learned this format from our wonderful colleagues at Telegen, who is the National Coordinating Center for the QuIN-QIO work. And we adapted that to meet, and so we run 4 think tanks a month, one for the National Coordinating Center, one for the Health Insight HIN, one for LA County, and one for HSAG HIN. So a lot of peer sharing and learning going on, which only helps us to understand, really how are these programs that we're rolling out working for these organizations, and where are the hangups and what additional resources do they need? And it really gives us as much information as we're, I think, providing in those. We've launched into a new area in 2018, and that was in supporting measurement development teams. As you may know, healthcare and the health system builds on improvement based on measurements. And so we did some learning about measure development and learned with our colleagues at Quality Insights about how that happens. And so over 2018, we were able to place advisors onto 8 expert working groups to, again, inform from the patient-family perspective the development of measures. We continue to be active in the research space as well. We're still involved with 3 research projects, mostly interestingly around aging, which is an interesting place for someone who came out of pediatrics to land. But boy, my learning over the last year is how very similar pediatrics and geriatrics care is in terms of really respecting the natural development in both of those phases of life. So next slide, please. Again, I just want to acknowledge a few of our partners from 2018, some of them long-term partners and some of them new partners. Along with the long-term partners, we have been working with Health Insight for several years now, and as they merged this year with Qualis, that's now Qualis Health Insight, we continue to support their patient-family engagement in a variety of different activities that you've just heard about. The Quality Improvement Organizations, PFCCpartners is proud to be the patient-family engagement subcontractor to the National Coordinating Center for QINs. And through that work, we continue to build on the development of advisory programs across the QINs, and just super proud to partner with such organizations that were just really aggressive in figuring out patient-family engagement and very committed to creating these infrastructures across the QINs that engaged over 200 Medicare beneficiaries across the program. So our team is very much looking forward to being in Baltimore on Monday at the CMS Quality Conference with all of our QIO colleagues and their advisors, and I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to just boast and brag on their accomplishments in this last few years through the 11th scope of work. So great partnerships there. We're, again, all of our partners, I feel so fortunate because we learn so much with them as we seek to help them as well. Lindsay, doing a great job keeping up with those acronyms in the chat box. Thanks. A couple of new partners for us in 2018. Health Services Advisory Group has actually been a longstanding partner for the conference in their local affiliate here in Los Angeles. But this is the first year that we've had an opportunity to work with HSAG in the corporate and arena and doing some think tanks with them. So excited about that work moving forward. And then the LA County Department of Health Services, LA County DHS, what an opportunity we've had to work with an amazing team there to that are so innovative and ready to think broadly about patient-family engagement, not just in each individual organization, but really in a comprehensive approach to embedding patient-family engagement, not only as a strategy for improvement in the agency, but also just as an overarching model of care. So in that space, we're tapping into the work we did last year with the National Academy of Medicine on the guiding framework for person-family engaged care. And that framework is really our roadmap for the work with LA County DHS. So we've just launched a Gateways Collaborative with them recently, and again, excited to see where we are at the end of 2019 with that group. Just the health centers have been very supportive and eager to get going, and the leadership team there is fully bought in. So just a great group to work with. Another great group to work with, which is new to us in 2018, is Quality Insights. And they are a measurement development organization, among other things. One of the things they do is measurement development. And they came to us with a desire to engage patient and family advisors across the measurement development lifecycle in their expert working groups. So those are groups that are multi-stakeholder groups required by CMS as part of the measure development process. And together we've learned, I have to say the first few times out. We had some snags and difficulties, and again, because of their teachable spirit and ours as well, we learned how to engage advisors from the network, how to prepare them really well, and move them onto those expert working groups, and then support them following. So exciting work that Quality Insights and PFCC Partners have continued to grow on. Next slide, please. So our sustaining partners, we're so excited to have them. And I have to say, a shout out to Memorial Care. They have been a sustaining partner since I started the organization 10 years ago. So thank you so much for your continued support. Memorial is the organization that I started in as an advisor 25 years ago, and was able to support on their journey to patient family-centered care. They've got a whole great staff over there now, continuing to shepherd these activities and their robust advisory programs. We had the good fortune this year to do a couple of workshops with them, and they utilize our training for their advisors as well. So excited about the continued connection and partnership with Memorial Care. UCLA Health has been a long-term sustaining partner as well, and they have had some changes in leadership in the patient experience department, but they're moving forward with their advisory programs and gaining more national notoriety, in part because of their behavioral health advisory councils. So if any of you are on the call or thinking about initiating behavioral health advisory programs, UCLA has a fantastic, very strong program over there, and we'd be happy to make those connections. And then Sutter Health has been a wonderful partner over the last 4 years. We had an opportunity early on with them to help them develop the infrastructure for their advisory program, which is just now one of the strongest in the country, and really has that infrastructure and continued resource toward growing and really authentically engaging the patient and family advisor into all levels of their service. So we continued this year to support them with programs and coaching and consulting, and we'll continue to do that into 2019 as well. So thank you so much to our sustaining partners. Next slide, please. So the PFA network, holy smokes, that blew up this year in a good way. I don't mean in a bad way. But one of our growth objectives for 2018 was to expand the PFA network, and I think we shattered that goal. I think we started with around 150 advisors in the network, and we are today at 614. Those are people like myself, like Lindsay and Stephen, who serve in the advisory role across health settings, across research teams, across all those kinds of teams, really across the country. I will say that as we gain information about our advisors in the network, as they complete the membership survey, we recognize that we have a really tremendous diversity of experience. So we've got folks all across the gamut in terms of diagnosis, in terms of age, in terms of regional representation. We've got wonderful diversity in that way, and also some lived experiences that influence care, so cultural differences and others that influence. Through that, you'll hear about our challenges in the PFA network in just a little bit, and what we're doing to try to address some of those. But one of the things that I think I'm really most proud of in the PFA network is that we've been able to support the launch of 2 new work groups over the course of 2018. One is through a wonderful partnership, and I realize I skipped over Open Notes a couple of slides ago, but I'll tell you a little bit more about them as a new partner in 2018. The first work group that we launched was with, we actually launched it in 2017 as the Patient Access Work Group. And that group did a lot of great work in terms of how do patients and families access healthcare, and really specifically honed in on their medical records and the need to do that. As that work group evolved, Open Notes came into us, and If for those of you who aren't familiar with Open Notes, I strongly suggest you look them up. But Open Notes is a movement to give access to visits to encounters, the physician notes directly to the patient and the family. And so there was great alignment in what we were trying to do with patient access and what they were trying to accomplish through this movement that they have tremendous outcome data on. And so they sponsored this work group, which we evolved into a national IT PFAC. And so we've got a group of 12 advisors in that group. Well, we'll go into that a little bit more. I just realized I had that on another slide. We had 258 advisors participate in our skills development courses. That's the core competency and the QI basics, and then the measurement basics. So that was a lot of folks that we moved through 4 trainings this year. Really excited to be raising the capacity of our advisors to have the context and background knowledge they need to be really effective in the rooms that they're going into to partner. Along with all that learning we did with Quality Insights on measurements, we developed and Lindsay wrote the Measurement Basics curriculum. So we're also now delivering a Measurements Basics curriculum for our advisors, and delivered that I think one time so far as a large group of, we pilot tested it with the folks working with Quality Insights, but that'll be rolling out more robustly next year. Next slide, please. So the other work group that I didn't mention quite yet was the compensation work group. And I love the way that this evolved. So this evolved from a conversation that advisors were having from the network about the compensation, and that it was a very, you know, I keep calling it a very hairy animal, because there's so many different aspects to this idea of compensating advisors. There's the idea that, you know, we don't want to compensate advisors, because as an advisor, I might have my objectivity somewhat influenced if I were paid in some way. There's the idea that even a small payment might cost somebody their eligibility for financial support. There's the idea that, and really the basis of why we as a community wanted to tackle this was the idea that if we aren't compensating in some way, whatever way that looks like, it's not always just a check, but what it might look like, if we're not compensating, is that potentially contributing to the lack of diversity that we see in our disparate populations getting involved in advisory efforts? And so this group that you see on your screen were really leaders in saying we need to get together and you know, have connections, talk about this. And as we started to meet, one of the first things we did was a bit of an environmental scan to see what compensation practices were going on out there. And we learned a couple of awesome things. One was a wonderful paper that Zal Press, the patient commando, and his team wrote around compensation. If you haven't seen it, we posted it on the website, and it's a really important paper in terms of starting the conversation. The other thing we learned was we heard from some of our partner organizations, such as NQF, who were struggling with how do they appropriately compensate advisors for participation on their action teams. And so excuse me, Aisha from National Quality Forum was able to join this work group and bring in that perspective. And we heard that from other partner organizations as well. So this compensation work group has already made some great progress, but we're looking for some important outcomes coming in 2019. Next slide, please. Great. So I mentioned the open notes. I started to talk about this. These are the folks that are participating on the National IT PFAC. And again, Open Notes supported this group. So these advisors are being compensated for their efforts on this group. But the other wonderful contribution that Open Notes brings is the connection to some of our IT vendors and the ability to speak to them in a variety of different ways about what's really important to patients and families in terms of not only accessing their notes, but just accessing general patient portals. And so as we look to what would we like to accomplish as a team in 2019, I love this idea that the advisors that you see there came up with to create the perfect patient portal from the patient perspective. And I just thought that was a really cool idea to move forward and to lend to as a point of information to inform our vendors who are designing these patient portals. So that's kind of an example of some of the work going on in there. So let's see. Let's go to the next slide. Before we go into what's new, I am seeing some activity in the chat box. Lindsay, do we have some questions?
Yes, there was a question from Leah about the compensation work group asking, so what is the goal of the work group? Will it make recommendations about compensation?
That's exactly what the group has decided they'd like to produce as an outcome. So what we realized as we started the environmental scan was, boy, this is a hairy animal, and boy, there's a lot of different ways to come at this concept. And so we felt that at this point in time and in this point in the environment, a good next step would be to develop a set of recommendations that would support advisors, you and I, to start the conversation. So I can tell you personally, I was always incredibly shy to ask, will there be a compensation for this, or will there be, you're asking me to fly across country and to do a talk for you, how's that going to work? Because I was always coming from the perspective of, I'm just so excited to have that opportunity. And through this work group, my thinking has evolved a bit to say, when I'm not asking the question of whether I will be compensated, then I'm not kind of putting that out there in the environment to be considered, to be thought about, and to be planned for everyone else who comes behind me. And that's the important part of the PFA network, is that it's not about what's best for Libby Hoy, it's about what's best for advisors moving forward as a community. And we can only get to understanding what's going to be valuable if we create these work groups, create the opportunity for our advisor community to work together to decide what's going to be important and what's going to be helpful. So yes to your question, that was a long-winded yes, but yes to your question, we will be making some recommendations so that it's easier for all advisors to start the conversation.
Great, thank you. And then kind of along the lines of what you were talking about, but Mary asked if there is a way for others who aren't part of the Health Information Technology Advisory Council to give suggestions.
Yes, Mary, there's always an open door for suggestions and information. In fact, we not only appreciate it, but we actively are seeking it, and that is, we'll talk about it in a moment. But you can always email either one of us anytime, but the other way to do that is to be active on our Yammer community. The PFA network has a really active peer community on Yammer, and it's a great place to pose questions. I know Janice Tufte regularly puts on opportunities and meetings coming up or research articles. So it's a great place for sharing, and we really do want those suggestions, absolutely. So yes, Yammer or email. All right, anything else, Lindsay?
Not from the chat, just kudos to all that the PFA network has accomplished.
Right? It's been so exciting to watch this year. All right, so what's new? What are we looking forward to in 2019? We'll keep going on the theme of the Patient Family Advisory Network, if you want to go to the next slide, Lindsay. And so we've got all these new members. We're working on our diversity. But we know that we don't, the advisory community still isn't as inclusive as we need it to be of our disparate population. So we really want to reach out and embrace those disparate populations and underrepresented voices in the advisory community. We need the group think available to us through the advisory network to help us understand the best ways to expand diversity. It may not be the traditional, I'm thinking that it's probably not going to be the traditional ways that we've been engaging advisors, because if that worked, we'd have them here already. So we're going to have to be innovative here. We're going to have to think about things a little bit differently to really continue to build, especially that diversity. One of the ideas that we have as in a team is to engage patients and families, patient-family advisors from the network into a self-governance structure. So we have said from the get-go of the PFA network that it is designed by advisors for advisors. We just like to expand even further to ensure that the by advisor part includes everybody who's in the network. And so we are looking at some self-governance structures, and you can expect to see in 2019 a call for an advisory board, a call for some other structures whereby advisors will truly own this network. We'd also like to see improved communications within the PFA network. So I may have skipped over a bit the idea that, or the reality, it was an idea. An idea we had in 2017 was that organizations who sought to engage patients and families who were had some training and who were effective and experienced into national and regional projects could connect with the advisory network, and you know, we do some matchmaking per se to engage advisors, and then we would continue, we being PFCC partner staff, would continue to support that advisor through that that engagement. So that National Quality Forum action teams are a perfect example of that. We were able to engage advisors on the shared decision-making team, as well as the serious mental health and social determinants of health teams. And so we continue to meet with those advisors over the span of their 6-month or 9-month engagement with NQF to be sure that they have everything they need. As I said, that was a concept in 2017. It became a reality in 2018, and to the point that we maybe would receive 1 or 2 requests a month, kind of went to 1 or 2 requests a week, and we're literally at 1 or 2 requests a day for advisors on many, many days. So that it continues to be a very robust, it's obviously filling a need for the organizations. The additional training for the advisors is filling a need for the advisors. So it seems to be a very copacetic kind of relationship. So we'll continue to build out that. So as part of that, we need to improve communications with our network. You know, when it was 40 people, I pretty much knew everybody in the network, and it was very easy to communicate. When it got to be 150, that got a little bit looser. At 614, we don't have that same ability to have a memory for every individual. We seek all the time to build relationships with everyone in the network who is interested in doing so. But we have to have some infrastructure. We're looking at how we build that infrastructure to have consistent communications, whereby if an organization calls us and asks, what do advisors really think about the opioid crisis? We have an opportunity to go out to our network and say, tell us what you think, whether it's a survey or a quick response to a question, whatever it might be. We have to have some way to ensure we're representing the network on those items. So you can expect to see in 2019 improved communication infrastructure so that we can have that ongoing dialogue with our PFA network members. And then expand diversity. I probably should have put that one on top. I'm sorry. This is I think most important limitation of advisory efforts in the environment overall today. And this is something that we are going to actively figure out, at least test some theories about how we can be more inclusive, and we expect to do a lot of learning around this issue. And I'm going to stop there. Patty Black, you are welcome on the opioid crisis. And I will say, Patty and I had a recent conversation about the opioid crisis, and again, another issue that has just got so many different angles on it, and not always are all angles sort of appreciated. So Patty and I tossed around the idea of starting another work group to really get the patient family advisor voice informing the opioid crisis. So we might want to, anybody else listening in who might be interested in that, let us know, because another really important area for us to have a voice in. Oh, right. So next thing that's new is our right around the corner annual conference. Stephen has been leading the team and our wonderful colleagues at HSAG in the Los Angeles office to implement our conference planning, and everything has come together so well. I think that we are over 200 registrants at this point. I don't know if you have a number to chat in, Stephen, but there are a few spots left if any of you are interested in joining us in Los Angeles. It's very warm there. I'm anxious to go back. It's very cold over here on the east. Anyway, we'll be in the California Endowment Center. We were very, very honored to have Dennis Wagner agree to be a keynote for us. And as a happy surprise and bonus, post-Christmas bonus, Dr. Paul McGann, also from CMS, has decided to join us as well. So we'll have both Dr. McGann and Dennis Wagner as our keynotes. We'll be honoring our Orange Partnership Award winners and having a wonderful conversation with our Patient Family Advisory panel. So it'll be a great day. If you don't have plans on February 4th, I would encourage you to join us. All right, we're at 216 registrants, so literally we have a few spots left. All right, well, I think with that, I'm gonna stop talking and throw it back to Lindsay so you can hear somebody else's voice for a little bit to tell us about some of the programs that we'll be running in 2019.
Great. Thank you so much, Libby. It's been such a great year of accomplishments in 2019 for PFCC Partners, and I'm really looking forward to what we're going to accomplish this year as well. Libby talked a little bit about the Gateways to Advisory program that we offer, and are currently running one collaborative right now with LA County, the Department of Health Services. And so this is it's a 6-month learning collaborative with 5 learning sessions and action periods in between. We walk organizations through all of these steps, starting with setting the table and creating vision statements and charters for their advisory councils, really laying the foundation for this work, into the second learning session where we talk about recruitment and lay out a 3-tier process for recruiting patient family advisors who are really intrinsically motivated to partner and improve the organizations that they're partnering with. And then finally, we give organizations information on what preparation patient family advisors need in order to partner effectively. We help organizations set up their first meetings with their advisory council. And then we wrap up with the capstone of presentations with all of the teams that are participating in the collaborative, and talk about some sustainability practices and growth practices going forward. So how they can grow their councils once they start their advisory council meetings. It's a really intentional process, and we've seen success with so many organizations that have been through the Gateways Collaborative. I'm trying to think of the exact number right now. Libby, maybe you have it. I think it's somewhere a little above 75 organizations, with about 9 in the collaborative right now. And we also talked about the PFE boot camp, or the Gateways boot camp that we hosted with the Health Insight HIN hospitals. This was a really exciting day and a half where it was a challenge, I think, for us. I had been so used to delivering the Gateways Collaborative over a period of 6 months and having lots of time to work with the teams. But we were able to condense all of that information down into a day and a half where 12 hospitals who were part of the Health Insight HIN went through that entire day of the half. We walked them through all of the steps that are part of the Gateways Collaborative that I just shared with you. And that was in person. So we had a lot of time for the teams to work together and think about their vision statements, develop their vision statements, talk about recruitment, and do some brainstorming on some really interesting and creative areas where they could recruit for patient family advisors to really garner that diverse population that's representative of the organization that they served. After that day and a half, we did extensive coaching. I was in contact and still am in contact with a lot of the teams, all of the teams to this day. We did weekly check-ins. I've been calling them, sending emails just to ensure that they have everything they need to take what we created as an action plan. That was the outcome of that Gateways Bootcamp, was an action plan for them to take forward. And they wrote down what they're going to stop doing and what they're going to start doing and what they're going to continue doing to really be successful at developing their advisory council programs at their organizations. And so that extensive coaching was really needed to ensure that they were following the action plans. And we're still working with a lot of the organizations today. We have some of them starting their first meetings, which is really exciting. So it was an exciting challenge, and we had a lot of fun with it and really saw success with this boot camp concept. We also, through the Gateways Collaborative and the boot camp, provide tons of templates on what your vision statement needs to include, what is in a charter, what kind of recruitment materials do you need, what should your orientation look like. So lots and lots of templates and samples from all of the other organizations that we've worked with in the past. In the Gateways Collaborative that we're currently presenting with Los Angeles County, we have the same thing. So tons of templates and samples and some peer opportunities as well. I will mention we do have a Yammer network. Libby mentioned that for the PFA network, but we also have Yammer networks for the Health Insight HIN hospitals, for the Los Angeles County organizations that we're partnering with right now to really enhance their peer learning so they can learn from other hospitals that are similar to theirs and other organizations that are similar, to learn some best practices and ask questions of each other and just see what each other is doing so they can kind of shamelessly steal those ideas and use them at their own organizations. And that's really what the Gateways Collaborative is all about, and what this boot camp as well turned into, was a way for everyone to learn from each other in this really collaborative environment, which we continue to present. Also, new to 2019 is patient family engagement action planning. And so this is something that we have partnered with HSAG, one of our partners, with, and are looking forward to utilizing this action planning with Health Insight and some of those rural organizations that Libby mentioned before. And so the PFE action planning is also kind of a condensed version of the Gateways Collaborative. You'll see that we're really just trying to meet everyone where they are in whatever step of this patient family engagement journey that they're at. And so the PFE action planning is just another form of that. What we have for the action planning, there is some pre-work for the organizations that will be part of it. We have a readiness tool that helps them get really organized and make sure that they have everything they need to be really successful to start this planning session of how patient-family engagement is going to look at their organizations. They also look at the scope of their patient-family engagement work. Where is that scope going to be? Are you going to engage patients on a specific committee or an improvement team, or are you creating a hospital-wide advisory council? That scope is so important as we start to develop these patient-family engagement structures with organizations, because it really drives all of their work to the development of these programs. They also look at strategic priorities for their organizations before coming to this action planning session, and also before entering the Gateways Collaborative as well. Looking at the strategic priorities of the organization is really important, because we want organizations to tie the work of patient-family engagement and all of those efforts to something that is really a high priority to the organization. So the organization continues to build will and really sees benefit in these engagement efforts. So after the pre-work, the action planning session happens, and that's a 90-minute action plan session with Libby and myself and the team that is going to be planning their actions. And then after the action planning session, there is lots of coaching to ensure that they are following up on the plan that we create. And so that 90-minute action planning session, we walk through these 4 steps that are really important to developing patient-family engagement structures. I talked about the foundation for patient-family engagement. That also includes leadership support, having a real interdisciplinary team to focus on the engagement of patients and families. We look at existing improvement structures within the organization. Where can we really integrate patient-family advisors authentically into the improvement of the organization? And then look at community resources, what's available to the organization in terms of recruitment, what community resources can we get connected to, and then what will the organization need and what will your new patient-family advisors need in order to partner and really have an impact in that partnership. As an outcome of that action planning session, we develop a list of objectives and key results. And so we have used this for quite some time internally at PFCCpartners to develop our goals and ensure that we are sticking to them. But the objectives and key results, you look at the objectives, and those objectives should align with the strategic priorities of the organization. And what the key results are time-sensitive, measurable goals that will meet that chosen objective. And they're measurable because at a few months in to meeting those objectives, you're going to look back at your key results and say, okay, how far have we come to developing a team to put this together? How far are we with recruiting patient-family advisors? And so this is the outcome of that action planning session. So teams that participate receive this, we on the action planning session choose their objectives with them, their priorities to developing patient-family engagement structures at their organizations. And then they, with the support of Libby and myself, will develop these key results too. So what are the steps that you're going to take to be able to meet that objective? We're really excited to have our first action planning session with a HSAG team next Friday. But we've seen the objectives and key results model work for organizations in the past in developing priorities for their advisory council. And so we know it works. So we're just really excited to get started with this program. And finally, coming up, so we just completed the core competencies training for effective advisors. That was a 2-part online training where we went through the core competencies that you can see in this triangle on the right of your screen. And we had such a great turnout for that. I believe about 80 advisors and some staff joined us for that. And it's such an interactive session, which I always enjoy doing. But coming up, we also have quality improvement basics for advisors. Registration is open for that. And that is also an online 2-part session held on February 8th and February 15th of this year. And then finally, we are rolling out, so this is something that we have tested, I guess, with the quality insights advisors who are working on those technical expert panels that Libby mentioned. We've delivered this training to them to help prepare them for their partnerships on those panels, but now we are opening it up to the Patient Family Advisor Network. So anyone who is interested in learning more about measurement in healthcare, we are offering measurement basics for advisors on March 15th. And both of these sessions are really basic information that you will need in order to partner effectively on quality improvement teams or measurement teams in the future. There is no cost for these trainings. If you're part of the PFA network, you can attend them, and we send out lots of email blasts, and so you should see more information with registration information in the future. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Libby to talk a little bit about how you can be involved and answer any questions that anyone might have.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. My computer died while you were talking and I got back on anyway, so
well,
there we go.
Welcome back.
So all of the programs that Lindsay described are available to our to health systems and quality improvement organizations, measurement development organizations. And we look forward to bringing those forward to new partners in 2019 and repeating some of those programs for our existing partners as well. So if your organization is in need of any of those services that Lindsay described, please feel free to contact us in all kinds of ways that you see on this slide. And we would really love to bring these programs to life in your organization, again, in the way that it makes most sense to your organization. So sometimes that's virtually, sometimes that's a 6-month learning collaborative, sometimes that's a 1.5-day boot camp that is specifically designed to your needs. Whatever it is, we're here to truly understand your needs and where you are and work to meet those through these programs that have been developed. So you can continue to join these monthly workshops. Lindsay's worked hard to get a great lineup for 2019 of very exemplar organizations who are again, engaging patients and families as advisors as a key strategy for improvement. So the 4th Friday of every month at noon. Join us for those, no fee for those. If you are an organization who's engaging advisors, you might consider introducing them to the PFA network. We would welcome them to join us. And if you would like them to have additional connection to advisory peers and that sense of community, as well as the additional training. Join us at the conference or contact us with questions, with ideas, with thoughts about collaborations. We really are open to exploring this engagement and putting engagement into practice across settings. So, and of course, our wonderful social media intern, Kelsey Skelly, will manages all of our online presence, and except when I jump in there and influence things. But we would love to hear from you there as well. So I think we have exactly 1 minute for any questions. Is there anything in the chat box, Lindsay, or please feel free to come off mute and ask a question.
Actually, there is a question from Mary that I missed. Sorry about that. Has there been any thought to setting up PFA mentoring programs beyond online training sessions to support new advisors in addition to the gateway process supporting the organizations?
It's a great idea, Mary, and it is definitely something that I would like to pursue. I think it's sort of happening organically now through either the Yammer community directly, or oftentimes we'll get advisor who's asking a question that then we can match with someone who's got experience in that area or that arena. So yes, it's something that I would like to see, get some more structure to it. I love the idea, and if you have thoughts about how to initiate or get that supported, I'd be happy to hear that. Any other questions? Comments? Yes,
Go
Harvey, go Rams. Yes. So excited. I have my Rams scarf here in DC. I've been getting a lot of comments. Some of them even were nice. So that's good. All right. Well, thank you again for taking an hour to learn about PFCC Partners and where we're headed in the future. We hope we'll intersect with you guys and build on our collaborations. We look forward to seeing you in the coming year.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Libby.
Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.